It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Simon's Cat, tiny little card game here in which you are trying to pass the blame on to the other players for the mess you have created. And the way that works is with a very simple card playing mechanism where you want to play and you don't want to have to pass and skip your turn, okay? So let me show you how this works, and then we'll come back and I'll tell you if I think this is a good card game. Here we go. To set up the game, we're going to shuffle up the deck of cards here and divvy it out evenly among all the players, which I've already done. And then you are going to set aside these Simon cards and just put them aside as a pile. We'll be divvying these out later on in the game as a penalty. Those you do not want. The game's going to be over when someone has 3 of these, and then at that point, that player loses and everybody else wins, is the way this game works. So how do we play? At the beginning of each hand, the player that has the Cat 3 card, this one here, would play it to the table, and the next player has an option. They can either play on top of that, which requires the same suit, so another Cat card, say this one, or the same number, say this one. Or they can just, sometimes they'll have to, take the mess. That means basically take all the cards and make a mess in front of them. Basically, one bad pile. Now, it does not matter how many cards were in that pile. It could be a single card. It can be a whole handful of cards. It is still one mess. And so this player could play on here, and then the next player has the same options. They can play on their same suit or the same number, and at some point, some player will either take the mess voluntarily or have to take the mess. At that point, they'll remove all these cards, put them in front of themselves as a mess, and play a new card from their hand and start another round of card playing. Game's going to be over, this round rather, is going to be over when all of the cards have been used up. Everybody has played all of their cards, and players have taken messes. Now, the last mess will not be taken. That will stay in the center of the table. And then at that point, whoever took the most messes is going to get one of these Simon cards. It's possible that 2 players tied, and so each one would take one, or even 3 players tied, and they each would take one, okay? And then you shuffle up the deck, and you start again until someone has 3 of these. And at that point, that player, or players, it could happen to multiple people, have lost the game, and everybody else wins. And that, pretty much, is how you play Simon's Cat. As you can see, the game is very Uno-ish in the way it plays. It's really simple. You play a card, hope not to have to pass, take the fewest messes. That's basically it. And so right there, it's a very light, simple, some people might say forgettable card game. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But I do think that this game is tons better than something like Uno, which I think is the target audience here. The reasons it's better is the deck is limited. That means it will end. The game does not, the deck of cards does not cycle through. And so you don't have to worry about someone getting down to 1 card and then refilling their hand up, something like that. The rounds are fairly quick. The game moves along at a nice clip. The other thing I like in this one is that the different suits are not all the same. And so, for example, let's take a look at the rules here. The different decks of the different suits of cards are not only have different numbers of cards, but the number in the suit is different. So, for instance, of the Cat cards, there are 10 of them, and they go 3 through 12. But of the Dog cards, you have 6 of them, and they go 1 through 6. And so some cards will be more rare. The Gnome cards, there's only 2 of them, a 1 and a 2. And so if you can play one of those, you know you're putting the person after you in a tight bind, because they probably don't have the other Gnome card, and a 1 and a 2 are just rarer. So, again, I'm not trying to give the illusion that the game has strategy necessarily, but I like that it's a little unorthodox in its design. It's a little different than a standard deck of cards with the standard all rules. Now, having said all that, there are some things in it I don't like. I'm not typically a big fan of the everybody wins but one person style of game. I would rather someone win. And I think the game, like a lot of these ladder climbing and trick-taking games, are just a little long and don't realize it's quite possible for the game to be just too long. You know, you could play 3 hands and the game's over. Or you could play 9. You know, it depends on how many players you're playing with, but it's just too much variability. And so if you really divvy out the Simon cards, the game could go for a while. It could go for a longer time than I think it makes sense to play this game. So unfortunately, I do have a couple of issues with it. Now, the card quality is okay. Packaging is not so hot. I don't really like these hang tab kind of packages, but I get why they put it in this kind of packaging. So overall, I would recommend this to people who like the theme and know that they're not going to get a game that's really themed on the Simon's Cat, you know. But I also recommend it to folks who enjoy Uno and are looking for something in that vein that's a little bit better, you know, to share with family, to play with the kiddos, something like that. And that might work out. Because I do think it's a cute little card game. It's not brain dead, you know, but it's very simple and it's not going to appeal to, you know, serious gamers per se. Obviously, serious gamers by now have gone away and checked out, but those of you still watching, maybe something attracted you to this little package, and I guess I'll just go ahead and tell you it's not horrible. I thought it was cute. If there's someone in your life you think this is going to appeal to, if you think that, it's quite likely it will appeal to them. So maybe go ahead and check this one out, all right? That has been Simon's Cat.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.